Okay, Star Wars fans and YouTubers, I'm back. I know a lot of you asked me specific questions about army building, and I thought I'd just put together a brief tutorial video as well as a diorama and help answer some of your questions. I've tried to have one of each Imperial from all of the movies here lined up for Emperor Palpatine and Lord Darth Vader to inspect. I'm just going to give you a brief flyby of what I have. To army build, you've got to get a lot of different characters from a lot of different collections. They just don't generally all come out at once. These have been coming out since the Power of the Jedi range of around 2000. Emperor Palpatine here is actually from Wave 6 of the Legacy Collection. He's actually supposed to be the hologram Emperor. And Darth Vader is the current Vintage Collection Vader with two-piece removable mask. I'm going to start out here with a Stormtrooper. This is the basic white Stormtrooper that came with the Capture the Tantive 4 Battle Pack. I have several different types of Stormtroopers, but this is by far my favorite. Basically, if you want to army build Stormtroopers, try to get a specific kind you like from a specific collection. I don't care if it's OTC, Vintage Collection, Legacy, just get a type you like and try to replicate those the most and line them up. That is the best for army building because each Stormtrooper from each different collection looks a little bit different, and it would look kind of awkward if you have a lineup. I can do it, I can make it work, but it takes some effort. I have to put like other ones in the back. Next up, I've got an Imperial Sand Trooper. This guy is from the 30th Anniversary Collection. Again, they've released the Sand Trooper several times. They have one out right now with the Vintage Collection, but this guy they've released several times. He's very closely related to the 30th Anniversary Stormtrooper, almost the same articulation, but without a removable helmet, and they've got 3 shoulder pauldrons. I believe this one is a Sergeant with a white shoulder pauldron. Moving along here, I've got the Space Trooper. A lot of you don't know who a Space Trooper is. He was briefly in the movie, very briefly. Just a split-second scene in Episode 4. They're basically kind of astronaut troopers, in a way. They have a sealed tight suit, and they did some outside work on the Death Star. He's very briefly in a scene when they bring Han Solo in. His outfit is slightly different, and he's got a backpack. He was released in the Build-A-Droid line of the Legacy Collection. Moving on here, I've got a TIE Fighter pilot from the current Vintage Collection. This guy was first released in the Legacy Collection. I believe he came with several special things, including a Walmart Evolutions pack, the TIE Interceptor that was Toys R Us exclusive. He came with a lot of exclusives, and they just decided to put him on card back with the Vintage Collection. Moving along, I've got a Death Star Gunner. They were in movie 4 and 6. I believe with 4 they do have the vest on, and with 6 they don't, but the vest is removable as well as the helmet. He came out of the Saga collection of 2006. Moving up, I've got what they now call the Imperial Navy Commander. They've changed the name of the guy several times. For you old school collectors, he's the Death Squad Commander, or the Star Destroyer Commander. And for you 30th Anniversary collectors, he is, or I believe Power of the Force 2 went up, he is the, the Death Star Trooper. That's what they call him, but this is the new one. It's the same outfit, they just decided to rename him. I've got these by movie. These guys are all from Episode 4. Episode 5, I've got the Snow Trooper, or the Imperial Stormtrooper in Hoth gear. I've just reviewed this guy with an action figure set from Target. He's come with a lot of stuff since the 30th anniversary. A lot of exclusive packs, battle packs, Saga Legends. They sold them separately, Build-A-Droid. He's pretty easy to get, actually, if you look around. 2007 up to the current line. Moving up, I've got the AT-AT Driver. I actually have the Legacy Collection one here. I prefer the Saga one. I think the Saga one looks better as a trooper, but I have him out here because he's the newer one. And you can get him in an action figure pack, or he came with a Legacy Collection. They'll probably release him again. I think he came with a large action figure 9 pack as well. I think they've released him twice as a Target exclusive in the Vintage Collection. Moving on, I've got the AT-AT Commander. He came with Wave 1 of the Vintage Collection very early on. Basically, he's a kit bash figure of various Imperial officers. And he's a generic version of Veers. Veers is a specific character. This guy's more generic. Moving up, I've got the Biker Scout Trooper from Episode 6. They're infamous for crashing into trees and not being able to catch Ewoks. He was also released in the 2007 Vintage Collection line between Saga and the 30th anniversary. he released an original style card back, and again, he's come with quite a few things. Different battle packs, I believe is released in Saga Legends and Build-A-Droid. They also have a Rebel that looks very similar to him with a removable helmet. You can't really tell he's not a Scout Trooper, but they've got him with a removable helmet. He also came with a commemorative 10, as I remember as well. I think that one had a flip-up helmet. This guy here is probably the hardest Imperial to get of all. He is the AT-ST driver. They have released him once in late 2010, right before Christmas, and I expected them to re-release, and in fact, I announced they probably would. In fact, I expected them to follow the pattern they did with the dewback. They had a new Sand Trooper that got sit on the dewback, and then not that long later, Wave 2 of Vintage Collection, they re-released him. I've expected this with this guy, but I haven't seen it yet, so I'm lucky to have two of them. I keep waiting for him to come out on cardback or something else, but I do hear they are going to have a re-release of the AT-ST as a Kmart exclusive in the US, and I'm assuming they'll try to make sense and release this guy along with it. Moving up, I've got the generic Imperial officer in black. Actually, he is a specific officer. He is Colonel Dyer from the Shield Generator Assault. Let's see. No, actually the Battle for Endor pack, excuse me. The Shield Generator Assault pack comes with Lieutenant Runs. Colonel Dyer comes with the Battle for Endor. They're both black-tunicked Imperial officers. I know Kenner used to have a black-tunicked Imperial officer, and people have been waiting for one for the Vintage Collection on a classic-style cardback. They have not released him, though. People were hoping, actually I was hoping, in the action figure set, the original officer is actually in a black uniform. When they had the re-release for the Target exclusive, he was actually Captain Nita instead. So I'm still waiting for a rather new, fully articulate Imperial officer in black, but it hasn't happened yet. Moving up, this guy came out in Power of the Jedi range, as well as, I believe, the 2002 to 2004 saga. He's another Imperial officer in black. Basically, it's a hangar bay type uniform. For me, he works as an Imperial shuttle pilot because he's one of the few Imperials whose legs bend. He can actually fit in the shuttle. I've got two of them over here in the shuttle. So for me, I basically use him as a shuttle pilot. And he works rather well, although he is getting long on the truth. The Power of the Jedi collection was around 2000, and he's definitely due for an upgrade. So they basically need a new Imperial officer wearing black. Maybe both of these guys. Moving right along here, I've got a Captain of Imperial Star Destroyer. This is Captain Nita. He was released along with the Emperor in Wave 6 of the Legacy Collection. One of the more modern Imperials in the gray uniform. I know they had a lot in Saga and back, and they've redone him. Actually, I think his legs are too long and dangly. That's why I have him on the stand. He doesn't stand well by himself. But I am glad they made Captain Nita. He's actually, a very special Imperial. Episode 5 is a very special movie, so I actually credit him for being one of the first Imperials you actually cared about in the movie. Anyway, moving on. This is an optional figure. She is from a comic pack. This is actually Dina Shawn. She's a rebel operative disguised as an Imperial officer, but I thought I'd just show it appropriately. She's a female Imperial officer. You can use her for one, or you can use her for the Rebel Saboteur, either way. I've used her in several Imperial lineups I've done in the past, and she's a good army builder as well. They've also used her body for Madam Director Izzard, as well as Juno Eclipse. Now, Juno Eclipse is wearing black. She is an Imperial officer wearing black. So I guess they have made an Imperial wearing a black tunic, but not a male one that would be in the movie, because there's no female officers in the movie. But I am glad they have her. Moving on, this is supposed to be the Crimson Guard for the Emperor. He isn't quite the Crimson Guard. This is actually the Senate Guard from Episode 3. The Crimson Guard, I feel, is too old. So I've got this guy out instead. And they are supposed to make a Crimson Guard for the Vintage Collection, and that's what I'm waiting on. So I've got him out because he's the next best thing. But anyway, along with the Emperor and Lord Vader, as well as the mouse droid and this other droid, the droid's name escapes me. This is 101 Army Building. I probably will do this again for Imperial officers, and that'll maybe be next week or within the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. This is Supreme signing out, and as always, thank you for tuning in.